What up, everybody, and welcome back to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I'm going to talk about some blades. Today's blade, let's just call this Episode 3 in the ongoing saga of the Ganzo Firebird F729 carbon fiber. Now, for those of you that follow my channel, you've seen the other two videos that I've got on this knife. I got this knife in, did an initial impressions video. There was a big problem in the blade grind. So I contacted Ganzo, heard back from Ganzo. Basically, they said since I didn't buy the knife directly from them, they were not going to warranty it. So then I approached Gearbest, and this is going to be an update with Gearbest. Now, Gearbest has gotten back to me, and they are going to give me a $5 refund on this knife. Now, you may think a $5 refund on a defective knife is not much at all, but you have to keep in mind the knife only costs $15 to begin with. And as later in this video, during the review, I'm going to point out again what's wrong with it, show you what I did about it, and everybody can decide for themselves whether they would be happy with a $5 refund or not. But I have to say I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. This is being done as a learning experience for me and something to show my subscribers when you are dealing with knives on the lower end of the price range. So everybody can learn from what I'm going through. Now, the Ganzo Firebird F729 carbon fiber, yes, this is the model that is basically the Paramilitary 2 copy, even though it is not exactly the same, guys. And I'm going to point out some differences during the videos that you can't tell in a video or just from photos. But I got in here and I put the scales on it, I put my calipers on it, and there are some differences between these knives in both dimensions and profile. And of course, there's a huge difference in quality. All right, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and do the specs. For this knife, the blade length, 3.5 inches or slightly less than 9 centimeters. The blade stock thickness is 126 thousandths of an inch or 3.2 millimeters. That's one place that it differs from the Paramilitary 2. The Paramilitary 2 has much thicker blade stock at 146 thousandths or 3.7 millimeters. The blade width is 1.27 inches or 32.46 millimeters. The handle length is 4 3/4 of an inch or slightly less than 12 centimeters. And this is another place that it differs from the actual Paramilitary 2. The Paramilitary 2 is slightly longer in the handle at 4 7/8 of an inch or 12.5 centimeters. Handle thickness on the F729 is 501 thousandths or half an inch or 12.72 millimeters. And again, another difference between this and the Paramilitary 2. The Paramilitary 2 is thinner in the handle at 458 thousandths or 11.65 millimeters. So almost 1 millimeter thinner for the Paramilitary 2. The handle width is 1.13 inches or 28.16 millimeters. The closed width is 1.61 inches here or 41 millimeters. The overall length, right at 8 1/4 inches, slightly less than 21 centimeters. Stop pin thickness on the Firebird is 115 thousandths or 2.93 millimeters. On the Paramilitary 2, a much heavier stop pin at 197 thousandths or 5 millimeters, 2 millimeters thicker diameter for the stop pin on the Paramilitary 2. behind the edge thickness on this. Now, I have resharpened this knife as part of the ongoing issue with the blade grind on it, and I'll get into that later. But as it is right now at about 19 degrees per side edge angle, behind the edge thickness is about 20 thousandths of an inch. The weight on this is 4.06 ounces or 115 grams. The Paramilitary 2 is quite a bit lighter at 3.84 ounces or 109 grams. And then our handle to blade ratio is right at 0.75. So, on the upper end of pretty decent as far as that ratio goes. Now, the big differences between these two knives. Let's pull this Paramilitary 2 out and look at it. I'm going to try to stay pretty close up to the camera here to point out some of these. Now, of course, there is a major difference in the thickness of the handles. The Ganzo is quite a bit thicker. It's about 1 millimeter thicker, guys. That doesn't seem like a lot, but you definitely and instantly feel it in the hand. The handle lengths are slightly different. You can see this right here. Let's line up here on the pivot end, and you're about 1/8 of an inch difference on handle length, with the Paramilitary 2 being longer. As far as the handle profile goes, all of these radiuses that you see in here are slightly different between these two handle profiles. What really sticks out to me is down here at the butt end. You can see across the width of the butt end, the Ganzo is actually narrower by about 1 millimeter. You can tell the difference in this radius here and the corner profile here. All right. Another big difference is up at the pivot end. You can see the radius up here, and then on the Paramilitary 2, you've actually got a flat section and then into radius. It's very subtle, guys, and I'm not going to say anything but yes, this is a Paramilitary 2 copy. But at the same time, all of these radiuses and the handle profile is slightly different in every way. I mean, look at this radius right here, guys, in the choil. That is obviously and totally different. There's another big difference here in the actual blade profile. On the Paramilitary 2, you have a very short section of straight, and then you go right into the belly of the blade. On the Ganzo, you have a much longer section of straight edge before you get into the belly of the blade. And you can see right here, that is, if you look at them separately, you don't notice it. But if you look at them together, it's a pretty radical difference. Not only that, but you've got a totally different type of plunge for the primary grind. Spyderco uses a very abrupt plunge, and then this Ganzo has a flared plunge. Another difference is the Ganzo has more of a standard sharpening choil rather than this little sort of slotted micro choil that the Spyderco has. There's a difference here in the pseudo finger choil. You can see on the Spyderco it is much deeper than on the Ganzo. There's quite a few differences between these knives. The most major difference is in the quality of the knife. I'm never in this comparison am I going to say this Firebird Ganzo is an equal to the Paramilitary 2. It is a decent little knife, but it is never going to be the same as a Paramilitary 2. Now, let's get into materials. Of course, on the Ganzo Firebird, the blade steel is 440C. Ganzo does a pretty decent job with that. I've got no complaints with their 440C. The scale material is their single layer carbon fiber over G10 laminate. You know what? It's attractive. It does have sort of a slick surface treatment. It is on the slicker end of what you would see with carbon fiber. It is not, it's not like a greased pig in your hands, but it is fairly slick. You do get that carbon fiber look, and it is an actual layer of carbon fiber, so it's not a faux sort of fake look. It is carbon fiber. But you do get that sort of, and you can see here with the glare on it, that sort of slick surface treatment. Now, that is over steel liners, and you can see in there that the steel liners are weight relieved. But this knife is still heavier by quite a bit over the actual paramilitary 2. Now, you've got all stainless small parts here, screws and pivot and pocket clip. Everything seems to be, as far as quality, small hardware. I have not disassembled this knife, but I have gone through it and just made sure that all the small hardware was snug down, and I have adjusted on the pivot, and I haven't had any issues so far. I haven't had anything back out and loosen up, and I have been carrying and using this knife for a week now, and that's using it on the job. I'm opening plastic bags and cutting cardboard, and I've cut carpet with it, and just common everyday sort of EDC tasks. No issues there. Now, the fit and finish on this knife, as far as the handle, the lockup, the action, everything is good. This does feature Ganzo's G-Lock, which is it's a copy of the Benchmade Axis lock, although not quite the same, but it is a copy. The centering is decent on mine. It does favor the back side a little bit, and I can adjust that centering through the pivot, but it's sort of sensitive to that in this example on the pivot tension, and it will get too tight very quickly, and then you've just got sort of a too tight knife that you can't do much with. The lockup, absolutely zero issue. I'm going to say right now, I've had better luck out of every Ganzo I have had with their G-Lock than I have literally every Benchmade with the Axis lock. Every Benchmade I have ever bought with an Axis lock has had some play in it. Everyone. And I've owned probably 5 different Benchmade models with an Axis lock, and we're talking $200 knives here. Every $15 or $20 Ganzo I've had has had rock solid, no play at all lockup on their lock, so I will give them credit for that. The action in this one is it's not the slickest action I've had from a Ganzo. You can flick it, you can spotty flick it, you can open and close it, with the lock like you would a Benchmade, although it is nowhere near as smooth. It's a $15 knife, guys. $15 knife. Keep that in mind. Now, the major fit and finish issue on this knife, as I've talked about in the other videos, and I'll try to catch you here, but it's nearly impossible because of the glare. But we'll get real close up on the edge here, and if you look along the edge, you're going to see some humps on that edge profile. And what that is there are 3 gouges that are basically shaped like a half moon that are in the primary grind of this knife, and they extend from the edge up about 1/4 of an inch. It took me about 4 hours to resharpen this knife on the KME, and I was using the KME Beast stone, the 50 grit stone, to reprofile. You can see that I was able to put a razor sharp polished edge on it, excuse me. But you can see the width of the edge here at the termination at the sharpening choil compared to the tip. Not only is there 3 large divots in the primary grind, but the distill taper on this side is also bad. On the back side, you can see the edge profile on the back side. The back side is fantastic, no issues at all. But the face side of this blade is just a hot mess, guys. Like I say, I reprofiled this from about 25 or 30 degrees per side down to about 19 degrees on each side. Took it up to 1500 grit and then stropped it using my homemade cardboard and Flitz polish strop system. It is razor sharp right now, so no issues there. It did take a while, and you know what? That's all part of this learning experience. That's all part of the lower price point experience with these knives. And that's something I want to talk about, guys. I get a lot of comments of guys that, you know, there's a following for Ganzo knives and for low-cost knives. Because let's face it, in the real world outside of the knife enthusiast community, people don't spend hundreds of dollars on knives. As you know, I worked in knife retail sales in the world's largest knife store. I know for a fact most people will never, ever spend more than $20 on any type of knife. It doesn't matter if it's a pocket knife. It doesn't matter if it's a kitchen knife. It just doesn't matter, guys. Most people just do not spend the money. It's not important to them. Just think about all the people you know. You go into their kitchen and they've got a bunch of junky kitchen knives just thrown in a drawer. Then they won't cut hot butter. All right, those people, real people, just don't spend the money. And that's why I do Ganzo reviews. It's not because I like $20 knives. You know, my sweet spot in knife purchasing is the $100 to $300 price point. I love titanium. I love high-end blade steels. I love high-end builds. And, you know, I'm not a $20 knife enthusiast. What I am is somebody that wants to review a wide range of product on my channel to appeal to all different types of knife enthusiasts. Because there are people out there, they will never in their lives own a $200 knife. They just won't. And it doesn't matter if we tell them, hey, just save a little more, you can get something better. They don't have more to save. They don't make that much money. They've got other responsibilities in life. And these guys, I don't want to leave them out in the cold. I want to be able to review these knives. And I think Ganzo is a good example of this. Now, I have reviewed 5 or 6 different Ganzos on my channel. I own 4 Ganzos in my personal collection myself. And I carry those knives, guys. I carry them to work. I would much rather carry a $20 Ganzo than a $200 zero tolerance or something like that. In fact, right now, this is the knife that I have in my pocket. Okay, a zero tolerance. And the review on this 630 will be coming soon. But, you know, when it comes down to down and dirty tasks, just my personal philosophy is I would rather use an inexpensive knife. And, you know, I do this as a service to the guys that carry these types of knives. So they know, so they see. And the point of this 729 drama is sometimes this is the type of an issue that you get in a sub $20 knife. I mean, if you look at this knife, 440C for the blade steel, not high tech, but a respectable stainless steel that has good performance. You know, the carbon fiber G10 laminate, not super high end, but I can tell you about $200 knives that use a carbon fiber G10 laminate. I'm not going to mention any brands. You guys know what I'm talking about. To get that on a $15 knife and to get that look is pretty good. You know, the fit and finish is very, very good, guys. I mean, look around. Let's look here. You know what? You're not seeing a bunch of gaps. You're not seeing the handle scales with a huge gap between them and the liners. You're not seeing rough edges on anything. Everything is machined well and polished well. You know, the fit and finish is there for the most part, although in this example I did get that wanky blade grind. Now, am I going to stop buying Ganzo knives? No, I'm not going to stop buying Ganzo knives because I had this problem with one. There is at least 2 other models of the new FB series, the bearing pivot models that have just recently come out, that I want to get and review. And they're around the $20 price point too, guys. I mean, a bearing pivot folder in 440C for 20 bucks. Yeah, I'm going to review that. And if it's good, I'm going to say it's good. If it's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. Ganzo overall has been pretty decent to me. And, I can still recommend it as a brand with the caveat of be prepared for small issues and maybe even some bigger issues. Remember, you are under the $20 price point. And I got to tell you, at under the $20 price point, this is a pretty decent package, guys, even with the faults that luckily I was able to get past with a good sharpening. No, I wasn't happy with it, but you know what? It's going to work very well as a work knife, a beater knife, a hard use little knife. You know, the lockup on it is good. The design is good, of course. It's copied after the paramilitary too. So we know the design's good. So in closing, I'm still going to recommend Ganzo, even with this issue. And of course, with the caveat of don't be surprised if you find a flaw in it. You're going to find flaws at that price point. Don't expect too much out of it, but really I think you'll be surprised at the amount of quality you get for it. Is this knife going to replace my Paramilitary 2 in my collection? Hell no. I love my Paramilitary 2. I will buy more Paramilitary 2s. I will not buy any more Ganzo 729s. But I will be buying more Paramilitary 2s later on to add to my collection. So, there's no loss to Spyderco on this. And there's only a gain for my subscribers that may be interested in Ganzo knives and you need an honest look at them. They do include some flaws, guys. I'm not going to say any different than that, but I still think they are worth the $20 or less that you pay for them. And you know what? I wasn't real happy with Ganzo's response that if I didn't buy it from them, they're not going to warranty it. I would have preferred if GearBest sent me another example so I could review it alongside this one. But getting a $5 rebate on it, store credit, I'll put that towards something else that I can review on my channel. So it's not a total loss. So you're looking at, I've got $10 invested in this knife. And you know what? It's definitely worth $10, guys. All right. So that's the end of the F729-CF drama. We're not going to come back to this knife, guys. That's 3 videos. And that is quite enough. I announced my giveaway yesterday. And I want to thank everybody for getting in on that. Let's get some more people in on it. And let's get my sub count bumped up. I think I've already gone from 136 to like 156 on the subs. So there's a huge improvement right there, guys. Thank you very much to all my new subs. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you the next time.